How's it going? So, for my first review for this channel, it's going to be Where the Crawdads Sing, Delia Owens. I thought it was a really lovely story of a young girl, Kaya, who, from a very early age, kind of had everyone in her life leave. Her siblings, her mother, left her alone with her abusive alcoholic father, who he himself, sooner or later, leaves her as well. So she has to fend for herself in the marshes of North Carolina in the 1960s. Kaya only spends one day in school before she leaves and never returns because she's treated like an outcast. All the kids mocked her and she never felt like she belonged. So the story set over multiple timelines, where the present time, quote unquote present time, in 1969, is situated around a murder mystery of a young man, Chase Andrews, and an earlier timeline leading up to these current day events, which is a coming-of-age story of Kaya. Kaya eventually meets regularly with a friend who she'd known all her childhood, who was a friend of her older brother's named Tate, who teaches her to read, brings her biology textbooks to help her learn more about the Mars so she gets a greater understanding of the world around her. And, it's a bit of a friends to lovers trope. It's pretty cute. I really enjoyed the characters and setting in this story, more than I thought I would. I generally read fantasy, and so this book was recommended to me by a colleague, and, well, I'm really glad I picked it up. I really enjoyed the story. There were some descriptions I found a little clunky. Like, for example, there was a description of a leaf flicking in the wind, and it was likened to the flicking of a cat's ear, which is like a cute visual and an interesting descriptor, but I just found out a place where Kaya, the main character of the story, is situated around, growing up in the marshes. There's no cats there. She never had a family pet. It just kind of broke the immersion a little bit. And I know that's such a minor critique, because there isn't a hell of a lot wrong with this book. Because I did enjoy, almost all of it. It's an easy read, about 370 pages. It does have a lot of heavy themes, though: domestic abuse, sexual assault, abandonment, alcoholism. The book focuses heavily on the nature side of the story, and this makes sense because Delia Owens is a nature writer, and I believe this was the first fictional novel that she's written. The nature side of the story is very heavily situated throughout the novel, right? So Kaya constantly is making comparisons and trying to understand the human behaviour of the people that she's been left by, the human behaviour of the townsfolk that have rejected her, through the lens of animal behaviour, and which comes with some pretty amusing comparisons. So at one point she reads an article titled "Sneaky Fuckers," which is an article describing the mating habits of some animals and how less desirable males successfully reproduce. For example, they might be very boisterous and make hell of a noise, and this reminds Kaya of her mother, making her be wary of young boys, young men vying for her attention, hooting around in vehicles, describing them as unworthy boys who make lots of noise. And I did laugh at a few points in this book. There are a few more points that I had a stupid grin on my face because it's just so damn cute. I'd probably give this book 4 stars out of 5. Stars always out of 5. If someone were to abduct my family and say I can get them back if I surrender half a star, leaving Where the Crawdads Sing with only 3.5, then look, I'm not a monster, I'd give it up, right? I really enjoyed the book, but the ending I liked, but I didn't love. So I want to talk about the ending, and I want to talk about the twist and the conclusion that we came to. So this is the spoiler section, so from here on in, I'm going to literally spoil the entire twist of the book. So if you plan on reading it, I recommend it, but you probably want to run away now. But if you have read it and you want to talk about it, this is where we're going to do it. So I think the ending of the book felt the weakest to me, narratively speaking. I just don't feel like, spoiler alert, Kaya killing Chase fit the story like, it's believable, but it felt rushed in its revelation, such that I wasn't convinced of Kaya being capable of such things. Like, throughout the entire book, Kaya is such a caring, lovely person. She's not violent, and she just wants to protect all living things, right? And it's such a meticulously planned, premeditated murder that just, again, seems really out of character. I mean, the whole story is made to make the townspeople kind of cognizant of the way that they treated her and rejected her. Like, they rejected her because she's different, she's less than. And Kaya just wants to be included. Like, she imagined being part of Chase's friendship group. She, wanted to be a part of the town, but, she was treated as an outcast. And then she kills Chase, right? So, like, the townspeople were right to think that she was different, if she's just straight up capable of a premeditated murder. And look, I know it's a self-fulfilling prophecy to treat someone as an outcast, and so an outcast they will become. But, like, the ending tries to humanize her in such a way that she's deemed accepted by the townsfolk, and there's a constant parallel being drawn between human behaviour and animal behaviour, where some aspects of the book it's trying to say, hey, we're no different to animals. But the other aspect of the book is that, hey, no, we are above the animal kingdom, and we can't entirely be described by our base impulses. But to completely accept that we're no better than animals, well, the townspeople were kind of right to reject her purely animalistically, right? Because she was different, and she was a threat. And if that's the kind of takeaway, then, like, what's the whole point of the book? Like, what's the whole point of humanizing her? And look, humanity is no more than a mask that, under dire circumstances, will slip and civility will be ditched in a heartbeat, and we will all do whatever we can in the name of survival. And so a commentary can be made that we're not too far away from animals in our behaviour. But it was all just tied in a little too quickly in the end, and I can see where it was going, but the execution just wasn't entirely there for me, right? And I understand that, comparison can be made with Chase Andrews and her father, and her no longer willing to accept that abusive relationship dynamic. One of the things that bothered me was I found the court case side of the story was done really well. It felt like it was really well done. But learning after the fact that Kaya was the one that actually killed Chase, does that mean, like, she did actually dress up as that old lady or whoever it was, or pretend to be that tall, skinny man and disguise herself on the bus back to the town? Like, that kind of has to have happened. And, one of the lawyers outlines that there's no possible way that she could have boated that quickly if she didn't, if there wasn't a particularly strong current. So, like, that's how meticulously planned this whole thing was, right? Like, she brought her disguise. She boated through a particularly strong current that presumably she knew about because she understands the area so well, to kill Chase, to then go back and then get on the bus and come back to town to be witnessed coming back to town, right? Like, it's a little bit far-fetched in the end. Like, I almost would have preferred the story to have been Chase got murdered by something completely irrelevant to the plot. Because Chase was always hooking up with various women in the town. So maybe it was another aggrieved husband of a woman he had an affair with. And I think that probably would have had a stronger narrative point to have been made. I think that that everybody was so willing to jump to the conclusion that the outcast must have been the one that did it. Well, I think it kind of hollowed out the whole acceptance narrative of her, because they accepted her under false pretenses in the end. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels narratively awkward. I read this book pretty quickly. I read it in a few days. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I read it. I would definitely recommend it. But look, I'm curious to know what other people thought of this book. I know a lot of people have read it, so let me know what you think. Tentative 4 stars, 3.5 if I was forced. Yeah, good stuff. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.